Back to Inside the 12. I'm Madison Hawk. That's Pete Souza. Pete, we have a lot of games to preview, so what do you say we just dive right in?
Let's do it.
All 16 Big 12 teams are in action in Week 13 with only 2 games remaining in the regular season. That is hard to believe. Also, good news, there's no late games this week, so fans on the East Coast might be able to get to sleep at a reasonable hour. Let's get things started with Arizona at TCU. And Pete, Arizona snapped their 5-game losing streak last week. How can they keep the momentum going?
2 teams looking to air it out. Josh Hoover leads the Big 12 in passing yards. Noah Fafita, Tate McMillan. Plenty of fireworks there. I should say Ted McMillan, excuse me. It's going to be an exciting game.
Next, Oklahoma State is set to host bowl-bound Texas Tech. The Cowboys on a 7-game losing streak and another tough one here this weekend.
Oklahoma State been problems all year long in the rushing defense. They ranked 12th, giving up 240 yards a game. Too bad this week they play Taj Brooks, 8th in the nation in rushing yards, at 1,200 pretty much on the season. That's a recipe for disaster for the Cowboys.
Yeah, always hard to slow down Taj Brooks. Next up, 2 teams fighting to be bowl eligible as UCF travels to Morgantown to face the 5-5 Mountaineers. What does Neil Brown's team need to do to pick up their 6th win of the season?
Garrett Green and the running game remain the key to their success. In his team's loss to Baylor, he rushed for 129 yards. The team had 262 yards on the ground. Gus Malzahn knows. He said that's what they're going to do. They're good at it. We got to stop them.
The white-hot Baylor Bears are set to take on the Houston Cougars. The Baylor's offense right now really looks unstoppable. You've talked about Sawyer Robertson a lot this season. How can Houston put on the brakes?
Well, Houston has the 4th-ranked passing defense in the Big 12. They give up 190 yards a game. They are led by A.J. Hulsey, but Baylor, Sawyer Robertson, has been amazing this season, and it's been so exciting for Baylor fans to be able to see Sawyer Robertson, Bryson Washington, Josh Cameron, they're calling him the Uns. Those guys have been incredible. I mean, when you talk about Bryson Washington, 8 touchdowns over the past 2 weeks. That's unheard of. We're not talking about preseason games against non-con opponents. We're talking about into the teeth of the Big 12. The future is bright for Baylor, and I think it's also going to be bright against Houston on Saturday.
Well, not only are the Bears rolling, but after the big win over West Virginia on Saturday, it was announced that head coach Dave Aranda will be back next season. You got to love that stability and security if you're within this program.
Great coach, great guy. So pumped for this program.
Yeah, good news for Baylor all around. One game with a lot on the line. Kansas and Colorado. A month ago, Colorado fans saw this game on the schedule and thought, okay, yeah, that's going to be an easy win. Well, not so much anymore. Kansas has won 3 of their last 4 games and will look to defeat its 3rd straight ranked opponent at Arrowhead Stadium on Saturday.
One thing, and you touched on it, a guarantee I won't make, or I'm going to make, is Kansas isn't sneaking up on anybody anymore. This is a huge game for them, riding a tidal wave of momentum into this one, but so is Colorado. A key for Kansas to win this football game is Devin Neal, not only on the ground, but catching the ball out of the backfield. Colorado has struggled against opposing running backs who can catch balls in space. Look for Devin Neal to maybe pop one off or 2 to end that passing game.
So how can Colorado keep it rolling then is the key to slow down Devin Neal, because Colorado right now does have a lot of momentum, but Kansas with a lot of momentum as well. Colorado, as a reminder, can clinch a spot in the title game with a win and some help on Saturday.
Fast players, fast start. That's what Colorado needs. They started very slow against Utah, and against a better football team, they may not be able to dig out of that hole. To be able for Pat Shurmur and his offense to really kick Kansas's defense in the mouth, right? Some long, methodical drives early on in the game. And then you have the weapons like Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Those wide receivers, that room goes very, very deep. They can test that very good Kansas secondary because they're playing terrific. Pat Shurmur has the blueprint for success. I'm looking forward to seeing if he'll utilize it.
And Colorado has the stars. You mentioned Travis Hunter. He continues his Heisman campaign on Saturday. Inside the 12, as I mentioned, all 16 Big 12 teams are back in action this weekend, so we're going to continue to look at this week's matchups. Starting with Iowa State taking on Utah. After their win last week, the Cyclones are 8-2 and firmly in the championship discussion. Now they face a Utah squad that feels like they don't have anything to lose.
No, Utah has nothing to lose, and Matt Campbell's a little worried about Utah's defense. defense. He says, bar none, this is the best defense that we have faced all season long. On the other side of that, Iowa State's defense has become a bit of a patchwork operation. They've got 6 to 7 guys nursing injuries right now as they come into this game. In order to help that defense stay off the field, it's going to be up to Abu Sama and the Iowa State running attack to really see if they can melt the clock, keep the ball in their possession, and really get a physical win against this Utah team. Rocco Beck, no stranger to running the football either. On the other side, Utah will take some shots down the field with Isaac Wilson. He went after Travis Hunter last week. With success, they will try to air it out at times to keep that defense on.
It is going to be important that Iowa State gets out to a fast start to keep their title hopes alive. Next up, Cincinnati heads to Manhattan, Kansas to face Kansas State. The Wildcats have more questions than answers right now after a tough loss at home to Arizona State. Arizona State feels like they're rolling with a lot of momentum right now.
Yeah, and who does not have momentum is Kansas State. Head coach Chris Kleiman mentioned that he's dealing with some personal stuff away from the field. And in a game at a time where he needed his team to step up, they really didn't in that loss to Arizona State. Execution was the problem, not effort. This week, look for Kansas State to get design runs for Avery Johnson. Give him an opportunity to get lathered up, get physical. No RPOs where the indecision can come into play. Let him run the football. Let him get that steady diet of contact, and then he'll be able to make big plays.
For Cincinnati, the passing game was almost non-existent last week. How do they get Brendan Sorsby back on track and back into an offensive rhythm?
Yeah, you mentioned that they ran the football well, and so did Brandon Sorsby. But the problem is that they didn't have any touchdowns in the passing game and only had 66 yards. Sorsby needs to be more accurate. He's had plenty of time to throw. He needs to connect with his receivers.
Next up, it is our Game of the Week brought to you by Children's Health. It's a top 25 showdown as number 16 BYU heads to Tempe to face number 21 Arizona State. Pete, ASU looks like they are a team on a mission right now. This is going to be a really fun game with a lot on the line when we're talking title contention on the line.
Sam Levitt has been a house of fire, right? We always talk about Cam Scatterby, but look at Sam Levitt's numbers right here. Last 3 games, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions. The Cougars and Jay Hill, their defensive coordinator, they need to make him uncomfortable. Get him off of his mark. He's only been sacked once over the course of those last 3 games. Punish the quarterback. Get to Sam Levitt early. Make him question himself.
You mentioned the Sun Devils offense. Well, how about BYU's offense? A lot of questions there around the offense, considering they weren't really able to execute in the red zone much at all last week. A huge reason why they snapped their undefeated streak.
You look back at that game tape, the issue with BYU in the red zone, perimeter runs and too much passing. They need to attack the defense, go right at the heart of that Arizona State defense because the Sun Devils have speed. They can go sideline to sideline. They will really give a lot of trouble to any perimeter looks, but going right at them, they could be vulnerable. BYU would constantly throw their way into enemy territory and then give it back with running attempts that just didn't get it done.
Yeah, they totaled nearly 350 total yards of offense, just weren't, to your point, able to execute in the red zone. A lot of exciting games across the Big 12 this week, all 16 teams back in action. When we come back, we welcome in a former Sun Devil turned sideline analyst to help us pick the full conference slate. More to come on Inside the 12.